and welcome to Tapping Into It. I'm Tristan.
I'm Tappy.
And hey,
and joining us is the middle child. What's your name?
The middle one.
What's your name?
Sherrard. I am the middle child, the favorite.
Yes. We've chatted about you, but you have not joined us. So I'm excited that you're here because I feel like you're going to have some good insight. But Ethan, why don't you?
Okay, so last
here.
episode, we jumped in the time machine and went 30 years back to 1994. And we're hanging out in the 90s right now. And I asked Tristan last episode to think back to the wonderful mythical land of Sherrard with pink shag and blue shag carpet and all of the craziness that we got into. So Jared, I'm going to ask you the same question. When you think back to our time living in Sherrard in the little yellow house on 5 acres of land, what is like the first thing that pops into your head? Like what's a core memory that just means so much to you or just makes you laugh when you think about it?
Well, you guys nailed a lot of it yesterday, or on whenever the last episode was, when you guys were talking about all the things that we did, the weatherman stuff, you catching on fire, Tristan being big. I mean, I'm still scared of Bigfoot to this day. Okay, so that is definitely a lasting memory. But I mean, you guys covered a lot of it. And I know Tristan was talking about how he's envious of the 90s. And I certainly am too. Like 90s will always have a place in my heart. I wish I could go back to the 90s because it was a lot of fun. But I mean, you guys nailed. I mean, I could probably sit and give me some time and I could come up with a whole bunch of things that we did. I mean, here's one thing you guys didn't talk about: playing hockey down at the Carruthers.
Yeah.
Or in the basement.
Or down in our basement.
Yeah.
We used the Space Jam soundtrack to enter into. Remember? Like,
yes.
Like there was a crowd of people who cared what we were doing, and there was just fighters.
Oh, we were amazing with the Space Jam soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh, and the knee pads and elbow pads, and attempting to play hockey in our unfinished basement that also had a floor in one room that created a bowl.
Yes,
you're right. That was fun.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah,
go
ahead. No, go for it, dude.
I was just gonna say, like, I had all that goalie stuff too from when we played at the Carruthers, like the whole get up for like street hockey. I remember I always kept it in a black garbage bag, and then when we moved to Fire Lake, Dad thought it was garbage and threw it in the trash. And I was like, well, guess I'm not playing hockey. But it's
well, we moved on to other things when we finally got to Fire Lake. But before we moved to that area, let's talk about the horse trough in the backyard. Let's visit the horse trough.
I remember us filling that up into a giant fish tank, and then I don't think our parents were very happy about that, but we went swimming with the fishes and the frogs, whatever other creatures we threw in that thing.
And
I don't remember it being a lot of hard work, but we had to travel like half a mile every time we went to the lake to bring whatever live living organism we brought back and put in that thing. So I know you guys talked about it before, we were definitely tougher than we remember. I mean, there's no way we.
Well, and it wasn't really the lake that we went to. It was kind of like a runoff of the lake, like a stagnant little tiny pond off the side of the gravel road, and we just get all the tadpoles, and all of a sudden we'd have 1 million frogs in our horse trough.
Your memory is so much better than mine.
Because those horse trough like pools are now like super trendy. Have you seen those ads? Like people are taking those horse troughs and like making them into this backyard oasis in their yard. We had a dude on my talk show not too long ago that was talking about those, but like they put like a deck around them now, but they're like trendy to have so we were like way ahead of our time. But I was telling Harper, because we were trying to make a whirlpool in Dad's pool the other day, and I was like, oh, it's really not going to work here, but let me tell you about this pool that we had when we were kids. It was a horse trough. And she's like, what? And I was like, just go with me. It was like just a circular metal bin. And I said, and we would get that thing going and it would create a whirlpool, and it was great.
And also, it was only like 2.5, 3 feet deep. Like
that wasn't deep at all. And it was always ice cold, if you remember. Because
we still do
we were using, yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't get tetanus.
You know what? That's probably why
you
we
probably
don't
did.
get tetanus.
We probably did. Lifelong tetanus.
We're
We
just
are immune.
We're immune to it at this point.
But Jared, what were some of the other memories that you had, besides the stuff that we didn't mention? Obviously, you've always wanted to be a cop, and I know early on that was something we did a lot, was kind of played and pretended to be, everybody back in the day.
I remember mom and dad got me this little siren for my bicycle, and it had a little speaker and everything, so I could like make the woo, and I could talk on it. I remember just driving up and down the street as fast as I can with that siren on, like I had somewhere important to go. And I would just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so I did that. And then I remember I used to dress up in like camo clothing, and I made up something, and it was called like the Sherrard Kitty Cop Sheriff's Department or something like that. And I would go to my friends' houses and knock on the door and ask for them as a member of that fictitious agency. And their parents would always look at me like I was stupid. And I took that fictional job very seriously. I really did. But yeah, I did some things as a kid. I'm like, man, that's embarrassing. But then like if you think back, I'm like, I was 10 years old, But I'm like, all right, that's kind of silly.
Well,
But
do you
we did
remember?
that.
You remember, like, we were always entrepreneurs. We always had like a bar. Do you remember like the bar that we had built in the basement where we served shots of Gatorade? Do you remember that?
Well, was that when Dad was working at that place, and so he always had the powder laying around and stuff
Yeah,
like
so we
that.
would like sell Gatorade to whoever, came in like for 50 cents or whatever it was.
Well, I feel like we always had like a 5-gallon jug of the powder just
Yeah,
chilling in the house.
yeah,
I would go eating the powder. I remember eating the powder in the garage.
yeah.
Like he'd have, and I'd be like, I want a little Gatorade,
Something that was cool that popped up in my memories, and I don't know what just sparked it, but I saw a picture of it was me and Jared, because I think you were a little too young at that point, but Jared and I were playing with Dad's band. Jared was singing and I was playing drums.
There was one where I attempted to play. There's one thing at a bar or something where I attempted to act like I could play keyboard. I had no idea what I was doing.
I do remember that. It was just drums, and we'd play "Don't Take the Girl." Do you remember this? So
Yeah.
that's what we did, and there was no way we were good. But like the fact that Dad was like, "Yeah, I guess go
Yeah,
ahead,
whatever."
see how it goes."
Yeah, but it was like an every year fish fry thing.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it was. It was like every year at the fish fry, we'd go down there. Memory just popped up. Too. We'll get back to that. Don't let me forget, because I will. But every year at the fish fry, Dad's band would play, and
Yeah.
we'd get up there, so play the drums, and I'd sing the same Tim McGraw song
What, Dust on the Bottle?
over and over. No, the Don't Take the Girl.
Well,
Don't Take the Girl.
you love Dust on the Bottle too.
I still love that. I still love that song. Is that the song I used to sing? I always
Yeah.
thought it was "Don't Take the Girl." I don't know.
Well, you
like
like
every time I do
there was
karaoke, I sing
yeah,
the same
Johnny's
Garth Brooks
daddy
song now,
was taking
so.
her fishing. Yeah, that. Yep.
And then you used to do, what was the other song you did at karaoke all the time? Oh, That Ain't My Truck by Red Akins, right?
Also a very good song. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have all those songs. I mean, they're stuck in my head for life.
And then, I pulled you
but-
guys into being in various bands too, if you recall, because we,
I do.
because our dad's in a band, so we were always in a band too. So we would always put on those concerts for our babysitters and stuff. Do you remember that? We would like hang up the flashlights by rope, and like those would be like the lights and stuff.
Well,
And we would just play the soundtracks.
And I remember we had this like, it was like a mandolin or a fiddle, like this metal thing that hung on the wall. That was my guitar. I would take it down and like I would act like I'm playing guitar. No idea what I'm doing. But
we had tennis rackets, shovels.
We could make it look like we knew what we were doing.
Yeah, I remember the tennis racket guitars too, and the shovels, and like nothing was real. We never had anything necessarily real until we got that one PA, and then we had like a microphone and stuff for a while. If you guys remember that.
And then one year you got a real guitar, and
yeah.
I never got an instrument. I still don't know how to play an instrument. So somebody failed along the line, because you schmucks can do it.
Well, I got a keyboard once, but I never knew how to play it. I don't think I ever got lessons on how to play it.
No, I never.
I just kind of sat around.
Yeah, I kind of taught myself guitar, and I'm sure you probably taught yourself as well. And
yeah, I think every one of these instruments behind me, I taught myself how to play, except for the violin, and then I realized I was terrible at it.
I also was terrible at that and gave up pretty quickly. It's not really my bag. I can make one thing sound good, and it was because I had to do it in a show, so I learned that one thing. And then beyond that, I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, other than that, it sounds like a dying cat.
Yeah, no, it's not a good thing.
My son has a tiny piano. Well, it was Remy's first, then it was Rivers, and the notes are on the keys, and then you have this little thing where you can play like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and stuff. I can't even do that, and it's all written there like, oh, press A, then press C, and then press. I still can't do that. I don't know. It's like math. Can't do it.
Have you tried to play anything ever?
I just talk. No,
Well, besides that,
no.
but like not. I'm
That
saying,
that is my experience with instruments right there.
But I mean,
Yeah,
you are musical at least because you did choir and you did musicals.
yeah,
So
Yep, did all that.
you did
I
get
still
some of the
sing in the
musical
shower.
gene.
yeah.
Yeah,
You did.
my boss has told me before I shouldn't sing on traffic stops because he has to review the tapes and watch them. So, I mean, every once in a while, I'm still getting caught, but I mean, I still love to do a good karaoke. I'm just awkward because I don't know what to do with my hands when I'm standing there. You're standing there and you're singing. You're like, what do I do? Do I move around? Do I just stand? Like, especially when there's a break, and I'm just like sometimes I do like, hey guys, I don't know.
How's that again?
I'm awkward on
You
stage.
do that one more time. Okay, like it.
Yeah,
It's good.
I don't know.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
You guys are born for the stage. You guys are born entertainers. I'm not. Like, I don't. I generally, I don't even know what to say now. I think I've been interviewed, like, the only times I've ever really been on
Oh,
YouTube or
There he
anything is
is.
when I'm at work and somebody thinks I did something wrong. What I do, I get lost.
No, we
yeah,
still got you.
you just had a little bit of a lag, but you're back.
Oh,
Hey,
I do give a damn.
Okay, let's go there. We're gonna follow that rabbit hole real quick.
Yeah.
So 90s for us was full of movies.
Oh yeah.
So one key thing for me,
Best
and
movies ever.
I think this is why I have an addiction to popcorn. Every Friday night, I feel like we would go with Dad, or one of us, or all of us would go to Dad, and we'd go to the Corner Mart.
Yeah.
Or
They also
we
had the
would go
movie rental
downtown
place
when it
downtown.
still
Yeah.
when it existed. We'd go downtown.
Yep.
Video store.
And we would get to rent a movie. And I feel like we all got to choose. We either all got to get one, or we all rotated who got to take one for that night. But I think that's where my addiction to popcorn began. What did those movie nights mean to you guys?
So
Well, we didn't have cable.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
We didn't have cable. I mean, I don't know. I just remember it was exciting when we finally got stars. I was like, what? We can just watch movies whenever we want to? What is this madness?
I know. I was trying to tell Harper the other day about how when we were younger, we used to go to the video store. And I said we didn't have, because she has Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime, like we have it all. So
we do
has everything. And I said, we also had a TV where you had to stand up and change the channel. She couldn't grasp that. But she also was like, what do you mean you didn't have Disney Plus or Netflix? And I was like, those weren't things. Those are things now. But no, they weren't things. We had to like go rent it and you put it in. And, if there were previews, you either had to fast forward or you had to watch them. And they were on a tape. And I showed her what a VHS was, because she was like, I don't even know what is that. And like, I have a few collectible ones. So I was like, this is what it is. And she's like, that's not a movie. And I was like, no, that is a movie. And, but yeah, I do remember those nights. I remember it was either we were watching a movie or we were playing music.
Or we were playing Monopoly.
I
don't remember that as much.
Dude,
I remember playing a lot of board games. But
yeah.
Mom
I still suck at
we had like, maybe it was after the divorce, but we had every rendition of Monopoly, like got a new one every year. We had like Whovillapoly, Coca-Cola-opoly, like all these different things.
Oh, wow.
You can put Opoly behind. But yeah, so movies. What's one movie that you vividly remember renting, possibly more than once or twice or 5 times?
Tristan's favorite was the one with the cockroaches, Joe's Apartment.
Oh yeah.
I swear to God, you watched that all the time.
Yeah, that was a really funny movie. I do remember that. I haven't watched that in a long time. I remember watching the Abbott and Costello films a lot growing up.
I feel like we watched those
and those
at
were
Grandpa Rex's all the time.
Yes. I do.
Oh, anything black and white? Yeah. Yep. I remember. Well, I was funny. I was at Grandpa's the other day, and I said, I remember laying on this floor all the time and watching black and white movies. That's all we ever watched. It was like we were watching them, or Creature from the Black Lagoon, or Abbott and Costello, or any of those type of things. And I was like, yeah. Oh, I think that's called Them.
Is it Them
with the giant ants?
Yeah,
I think it's called Them.
And like the Invisible Man, and
like
Dracula and all that.
Oh yeah, not just not just the Abbott and Costello versions, but like the original. Like before they kind of put them into the comedy with the Abbott and Costello characters. But for sure.
Watching all of the Eddie Murphy collection too, whether it be 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep.
And then there's those classics. There's Beetlejuice and there's Ghostbusters. I mean, Caddyshack.
Oh yeah.
Classic. Christmas Vacation.
Still
a classic in my rotation. We were big movie kids, and like offbeat stuff sometimes too. I don't know any kids that were watching Abbott and Costello at the time, but
I still don't know people who watch Abbott and Costello now. I mean, like I talk about that, like what is that?
Anyone who watched Shelley Duvall's Mother Goose thingy.
Dude, so good. So good.
Yeah, that's why
I put that on Facebook, and that thing went nuts. There were so many people.
I know, that thing is bizarre, and I watched it because I was like, well, because our service went down at work one day, and I was like, well, I'm gonna watch it, and it's wild. And if you haven't watched it as an adult recently, it is chaotic, and there's a lot going on in that.
I tried to show it to Emily, like when we first got married. So I'm like, have you ever heard of this? She's like, absolutely not. We watched like maybe 10 minutes, and she goes, what are you making me watch? I was like, my childhood. You're watching my childhood.
It's wild.
I'm still like any 90s movies with Sylvester Stallone. I love all those movies. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
I'm still a fan of the original Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And people are like, oh, those movies are horrible. I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, they're cringy.
90s, I think
but they're fun.
Yeah, but I still like them. Like I remember, like we never even had a Nintendo or PS4. But when I think of that, I think 90s. I think going across down the street to somebody's house and playing their video games because we never had one. Or all GoldenEye, anything with Pierce Brosnan, stuff like that.
There's the Pauly Shore series too, Son-in-Law.
Oh yes, yep. Biodome,
In the Army Now.
All that stuff is
In the Army Now. What a good one.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Okay, that one was so funny. I made Aaron DePorter watch it, and he hated it.
Well, yeah. It made a mockery of the Army.
It did.
Like,
I was like,
whatever.
you like Army movies? You might enjoy this. He didn't.
Yeah, not the vibe. Not the vibe.
Still a real job in the Army.
Yeah. I talked about Backdraft too. And Jared, I don't know if you remember, watching that as a kid all the time too.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Ashley was telling me she listened to the last episode before I did, and she was telling me about the Backdraft thing, and I'm like, and I was like, I don't know, like I know that I have some issues with my brain and remembering things. I can remember some stuff, and I can't remember other. And you guys are just back there talking about all this stuff. Like, I'm like trying to think, and I'm like I know we watched Backdraft a lot, but again, that was another one of Tristan's favorite movies, and we watched it 10,000 times.
Yes.
But yeah, you have to bring me back up to speed with the whole lockers and the garage and fire coats or whatever we wore, because I don't remember.
Yeah, dude, we had Mom got us all these fire coat and stuff. So we all had these plastic fire coats, and we had written on the back of them the various characters in the films, and we had them sat in the garage, and we would go on fire calls and act out parts of the movie because I was always roping you guys into something. We talked last week about Multiplicity. You remember that, right?
Oh, I think I made Ashley watch it a while back. Because I kept talking about it, and I was like, you have to watch this movie. I said, we watched it all times as kids. I said, it's hilarious, and it still is. I don't remember if she may have fallen asleep. It probably happened, but I was entertained.
Yeah. Good times.
So here's an off the wall movie as well that just it takes up rent in my brain. But Pest with John Leguizamo.
Oh,
you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I haven't seen that one in a long time.
Another one with John Leguizamo is Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. Do you remember?
Thanks for everything.
Yes.
Yep. I do remember that one,
That was a
which
classic.
is funny because of who all was in that movie at the time. You know,
Yeah,
Wesley
Wesley
Snipes
Snipes.
and Patrick Swayze.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that was a big. I'm assuming it was a big hit when it came out. I don't know because we're so
It
young.
was. I don't know.
I think
But
it
it's
just recently like made a comeback. Like
It's
people
a
started
stage
watching
show.
it again.
Well, it's a stage show now too. So like it
Oh,
just
really?
and so I'll be curious to see what kind of legs it has beyond that. Um, but yeah, it's wild to me that yeah, just 90s. It's a 90s was a great time that I have a lot of nostalgia about. And if you've seen Inside Out too, Jared, have you seen Inside Out too? You have, right?
we took the kid last week and saw it.
That's what I thought. When nostalgia shows up, that's me.
Yes, for the 2 seconds of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it
Time.
my time yet? No, go
Yeah.
back. Okay.
I'm living in it right now. It's great.
Bear with me for a second because there was something that I was watching the other day, and I could not believe that it was made in like 1994. Bugs Life. Like, I think it was Bugs Life. I was like, I had no idea Bugs Life was made that long ago, and Toy Story and all that stuff. And I'm thinking,
All of it. Yeah.
that was like, and you think you're like, everybody's still watching that. My kids are watching that. I still enjoy watching it, but you're like, holy crap,
Yeah.
that was in the 90s.
Well, and Land
You
Before
know?
Time was even before that. That was like 89. And that is the first
Oh
movie
yeah.
I remember going to see in the theaters with Grandma Peggy down in Galesburg.
I was talking to some of my younger officers who are, it's weird to say that they're cops because they're so young, but I was like, oh yeah, it's like in 1993. I said, I remember going to the Sandburg Mall with Grandma Peggy and watching Lion King when it came out in 1993. And I'm like, when were you born? They're like 98. I'm like, oh my,
Don't talk
I
to
feel
me.
old.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, but I'm like,
we have interns right now that we were talking with them today. And I can't remember what I said something about 2001. They're like, oh, yeah, we weren't even born. And I was like, yeah, I hate your tone.
I judge how young a person is by if they can remember 9/11 or not. And we have police officers who cannot remember, or either were in diapers or 9/11. I'm like, I don't feel a year and a half away from 40, you know, but it's just crazy. I'm like, how do you miss all that stuff? But
I don't feel
like,
40. So
huh?
I don't feel 40. I'm old, but I don't feel old. You know what I mean?
Your hair feels old.
Well, we don't discuss that right now. It does look real rough right now because I had shaved it all off, but I have to grow it all back for a project coming up. And so it's slow, it's a slow process. The sides and the back are really coming back. Let me tell you, the top is taking a little time.
Yeah,
and
see, I want you to grow the bangs out.
and may not just some parts just may not be appearing anymore. And I'm like, I don't like on it all. I want you to come back in full force. So I'm just kind of waiting, but you may never see me with a hat off again. Is my point.
It's fair enough.
You guys both have such
sunscreen
good
on, you'll be fine.
hair, and I did not get that.
I have this lovely receding hairline. You see it?
I would take
like,
that.
and it
I would
gets
take
all my scars from Ethan when we fell off the bicycle. Yeah, they're
Hey,
there. But
let's go there. Let's go to all of the crazy injuries. Like, what are your highlight injuries from the Sherrard days?
Let's preface this by saying a lot of times I was an architect who would be happy to build whatever we needed, whether it be a treehouse or a ramp or anything else, but I was never going to try it.
Oh no, you were the architect.
You'd be in jail.
I was the audience. Jared, what were you?
The dummy. I feel like Ethan was in the background holding up sheets of paper with numbers on them.
Yeah,
like
probably.
And it wasn't necessarily to judge the construction; it was to judge the landing.
Oh yeah. I think my numbers went higher the more you got hurt.
Here's the thing I will say though. I would always fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like we would test it out. And if it didn't
you'd make it better.
We would improve it. So I feel like you were there to help me improve whatever creation.
I never broke a bone. Surprisingly.
Shocking.
I still have, I think I fractured a big toe once playing soccer, but I've never broken a bone. And it's surprising that with Tristan, some of those landings were pretty hard and there weren't plastic things like that when we were kids.
No.
It was metal. So what I was landing on was Tristan's makeshift. Just land on this metal garbage can, and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
And
ride your bike up this sheetrock or this sheet metal I just pulled out of the woods. You'll be okay.
I'm fairly certain one of his ramps, I landed butt first in a metal garbage can and got folded up like this.
Well, here's what happened with
probably.
that, because I do remember that one. So what happened was we were putting this particular ramp you're talking about was a door that we were making into a ramp. And we had tried with milk crates, but then the metal trash can was going to be about the height that I was hoping for. So we had put that door on a trash can essentially. And so when you went up, that trash can did not stay. And so when you, it was I remember that one. It was a good one.
I blame you for my memory loss issues for sure.
Well,
100%. I mean, that would be the only reason why I can't remember it. Yeah.
Here's, you know what? I resent that because you spent a couple years in Afghanistan, and I don't know if you can blame me for your PTSD necessarily.
I didn't get blown up overseas. So I may have banged my head or something.
Sure.
But I blame you. So when my wife yells at me because I forget something, I'm going to say, you blame your brother-in-law because he is responsible for this.
Can I tell you one of the memories that came to my head when I was thinking about just all the times that you really got hurt? Do you remember the time we were out? Fire Lake had that park, and there was like back in the woods, we had hung a rope on a tree. Do you remember this? Either one of you guys remember this?
When I remember the rope on the tree.
Yeah.
Was that when
I thought I had it. I had thought
that was one of time I was a kid.
I thought I had that tied right. And I said, yeah, go ahead, Jared, try it first. Because we were with like a bunch of other people that are out at the lake.
Oh, yeah.
And you took off. And that thing was not tied right. And you just went down into that creek hard. And it was not a deep creek at all. And I remember you hitting it and just laying there. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to explain this to somebody. But then you popped up and you were fine, and we went and retied it. Everything was good. But that was the one time I thought maybe I had killed you.
That was a fun place. And so, like I said, that was one of two times that I recall getting knocked out. Probably the only two times in my life I've ever actually physically been knocked out. Do you guys remember that awesome tree house?
Yes.
Down at the dead end,
yes.
I think it was where Mandy used to live, kind of back behind there.
It had tumbled into the woods, like in a storm or something.
No, that's the house that fell down the hill.
It was so big, it was like building the trees.
Yeah, that's the house that fell down the hill. You know, they had the toilet and the well. Behind, so you had the house up on the hill.
We're talking
the actual
further
house
down.
But if you go further back, down into the woods, past that house, past the one that slid down the hill.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Up in the big tall tree, like all these people. It's like a 3-story tree house.
I do remember that one. Yes,
it's like all the neighborhood kids built it.
Thing ever. Wait, are we at the witch's house in the woods?
That's when I was talking about
house, or which?
Yeah,
I was talking about the Blair Witch house. You guys were talking about the.
Okay, yeah.
Well, because they were close together, because you had the Blair Witch thingy that fell down, and then you had the vampire house because their windows were like boarded up, but people still lived there, and they were vampires in my mind. Like every Halloween, I'm like, I'm not trick or treating that house.
No, terrifying.
And then the tree house was way back in the back.
Yeah.
I remember that little section of woods there between where Joyce and them used to live.
Yep.
And then to our house, and we always came home when the streetlights came on, but it was still pretty dark. And I remember either running as fast as I possibly could, or riding my bike as fast as I possibly could to get from point A to point B before something came out of those woods and killed me. And we're lucky to have survived, because I'm sure I saw Bigfoot once. I'm sure it's still out there.
He probably lives in those woods, and he was probably terrified of us because he saw just how crazy we were.
Probably.
Or he just saw us get banged up and survived, and they're like, I can't defeat that.
Can't do anything to that.
But I do look back on those times.
I saw this kid's brother build a ramp, and he ramped it time and time again, and he never stopped. Those kids are crazy.
I will say I do look back on those times really fondly, and it does make me think sometimes I'm like, oh man, because Harper's an only child at our house. You know, she has like siblings at her other house, but it's like, oh, I wish I would have had a second child closer to her age so she could have like grown up like that. Because like we had a great time from what I remember. I know we squabbled as well. We fought as well. Let's be honest, we all still do when I can air politics, but luckily for you guys, um, but I remember those times very, very fondly, and I had a great time. So it's
Oh,
been,
it was
you know,
best childhood. I mean, and you brought it up in one of the previous podcasts where I always say, dude, I said, our childhood puts Huck Finn to shame. I mean, literally, like, we did all this stuff by ourselves, unsupervised. And honestly, as a parent now too, I'm like, if my kid started climbing a tree, I'd be like, maybe you shouldn't do that. But as a kid, like, I don't know what we were doing. We were falling out of them. We were jumping out of them. We were building stuff in them. But it's different as a parent. You're like, this is my babies now. Like, I'm responsible for them. Whereas if I'm responsible for me, I do a lot of crazy, stupid stuff, and I still do. I'm not scared of, if somebody told me to climb that tree, grab the guy from the roof, okay, I guess I'm going to do it. It's
yeah,
going to be a good time, good story. But if my kid, my little baby, my little princess, I'm like, how about you go play over there on the sponge beds or something like that. Finding Nemo quote. But yeah,
I will say it gets
I don't know.
better
It's different
because
being an adult.
I used to be that way with Harper too. As she's starting to get older, I'm like, yeah, well, try that and see how it goes. And just, so it does get more into that. But I think our parents were like that from day one.
Oh, and you know what though? I'm thankful for it. I am
Oh, me too.
100% thankful that
Me too.
we were allowed to just go. And I know you guys said it, but we just we went and made ourselves something. We weren't scared of things. I'm still scared of spiders. That'll
That's
never
fair.
change.
That's fair.
But it's like, we had so much fun and we did so many things, and I could not imagine of growing up any differently. You know,
No.
it made us strong. It made us have memory loss and have awesome scars to share stories with people about. We need to circle back, Ethan, real quick to us both getting knocked out by the Carruthers house going down that gravel hill. You remember that one?
I thought it was a really good idea as a 5-year-old to take my
I
foot
think
and shove it in the front tire because we needed to stop this bike. Because
I thought I
you
shoved my
acted
foot in
like
the
you
tire.
you were pretending that you fell asleep because I was riding like on the handlebars in front of you. You're driving the
I thought
bike,
I was.
and yeah, you acted
That
like
was
you
the
fell
second
asleep.
time I got knocked out, so I could definitely recall it a little differently because I thought I was on the handlebars, but whatever. I woke up again unconscious on the ground second time. Uh,
Well,
and
and
I remember you standing at the top of the hill crying, covered in blood. And I'm like, well, something happened, and I'm not sure what.
yeah, because you had scars all across your hairline. I had a rock
I
embedded
still
in my
do.
forehead, and I have like a Harry Potter scar from it.
That's amazing.
And I remember, I don't know if it's still there.
I think I have like a weird thing somewhere here-ish where there's like, I think I had a rock there too, but like the more I lose my hair, you can definitely see the scars.
Well,
And
and I remember the neighborhood kid come running over, and he said a couple 4-letter words that I will not repeat on this podcast. And then ran off and got his dad, and his dad carried both of us to like it was maybe like 2 blocks down to our house. And by the time he got there, he was completely covered in blood. Because I mean, it's head wounds, and they bleed like crazy.
oh
But
yeah,
like, a rock embedded in your forehead, little tiny rocks all across. And I remember Mom and Denise were there, and Denise is a nurse, and they both looked at us and went, "Okay," and they set us on the counter and just got tweezers and started one by one pulling rocks out of our foreheads. And
and butterfly
we didn't go to the hospital. They're
Why
like,
not?
I got a butterfly band-aid. And they just cleaned us up and right across, and we were fine.
When I tell that story, my wife is always like, I cannot believe you guys didn't go to the hospital. It's like, we didn't go to the hospital for anything unless literally somebody's bone was broken. It's like, I remember
unless
when
it was unless your arm was broken, Tristan.
I
Twice.
remember when Mom stepped on a toothpick.
Yeah.
It got embedded in her foot. She called the fire department, and some guy in a tow truck showed up and came and pulled it out of her foot.
A part-time firefighter.
That was the backwoods hick stuff that we did in that small town. it's like nobody would believe me. I'd say, yeah, a guy in a tow truck pulled up from the fire department and pulled a toothpick out of my
Well, I
mom's
mean,
foot.
you got to put it
You
in
know,
perspective. The hospital was like 20 to 30
30
minutes
minutes.
away.
Yeah.
I
Probably
mean,
30.
so it's not like it's just down the street. I mean, you got to have commitment if you're going to go to the hospital. Otherwise, you're just getting a Band-Aid.
Yeah, this town was in the middle of nowhere. That's an important detail. Like when it is a country town, like it is a middle of the nowhere, 30 minutes from the cities town. Like nothing, like we talked about, there's like a grocery store and like various businesses and stuff, but sadly nothing's in that town now. It's really depressing. But middle of nowhere, man. Like true country dudes, man. Like true. Like you cannot deny it.
I think there may have been like once when I went to the hospital, and that's when the weight bench fell on my head at
Oh,
the
you had a
reporter's
big goose
house.
egg. Yeah.
And
Did
I
you?
literally had like it was half the size of a baseball on my head. And I think I had a light concussion and that was it. But I think that was like one of the only times where I vividly remember going to the hospital because I got hurt.
I stayed at the reporters too. I was like, good luck, dude.
Yeah. Just, see ya.
Bye.
Did you not go to the hospital when you caught yourself on fire or no?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I was
It
probably
was
in
it was
so
more
much
like
pain that I
it was more like I got yelled at that day by dad, but I remember that it was like barely singed, like your fingernails. Like it was just like barely nothing. Like I
yeah,
don't even think
it was
Plastic.
it
my
required any.
yeah, it was my fingerprints are different.
Yeah.
Because I
Like
remember
one
we were
of
burning those little parts of carpet that used to be in the shed.
yep.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
And dad was like, "Don't throw anything else in there." And I'm pretty sure I didn't listen because I have a problem with that still. And I threw them in there because it's, well, for one, go a fire hot, right? You want to play with fire. I still do. And I was like, oh, rugs, let's throw more stuff in there. And Ethan was like, he didn't tell me no. And I don't know why he put his fingers in the fire.
I think I was adjusting
But,
it because it like wasn't fully in there, and I was like, "Oh, it needs to be further down." Not realizing that fire,
Um,
fire hot.
Jared, another thing that I'm surprised that you survived. I don't know if you remember this, but Dad had like a truck for a while. Do you remember this? Like very briefly, but or it might even be something he brought home from the dealership. But we tied the sleds onto it, and he
yeah.
would drive it up and down the street.
Oh, yes.
You remember this? And
Oh,
then
yes.
you veered off and then went into a kind of a ditch and then hit
And like halfway through the metal drain pipe.
yeah. Yeah, you hit the drain pipe pretty hard. I do remember that. That was a pretty good one.
Well, there could be possibly 3 times I got knocked out. I don't know. I don't remember that one. I do remember when Grandpa Teddy would pull us around on the mower
Yes.
and Pongo would, like, it was like a competition of who could stay on without Pongo pulling you off.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun because it'd almost be like, sorry, Ethan, you're getting sacrificed. And they just shove
Yep,
him. And
pretty
then
much.
Pongo would take him. And you're like, yes, I stayed on. And the next thing you know, I'm getting drug off. But that was a lot of fun. Like, I mean, we could say I sat in bed the other day and I was like, oh my God, I could think of everything that we did. And now that we're sitting here actually talking about it, it's like just random things are popping in my mind, like eating grapes off the vineyard.
Oh yeah.
And then
I'm so like prissy these days because I just have creature comforts like air conditioning and everything. But like we spent so much time outside in like 100-degree weather, didn't care. We would eat the apples off the tree, the grapes, like the wild berries that were growing out.
Somebody would grow sweet corn by the Carruthers. I remember we'd go in there and pick the ears and just eat the sweet corn.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it was a natural fruit outside, we'd eat it. Like I have a blackberry tree that actually isn't mine. It belongs to the apartment complex behind me, but a branch hangs over and drops them all the time. But I'm like, I don't trust those people. I'm not eating those. But back in the day, I'd have been like, free food, do it up. I guess I'm a little more prissy too. I'm always like, oh, am I gonna die because I'm eating something that I shouldn't be? I don't know, But man, hedgehogs. I remember the hedgehogs tree back there.
Oh yeah, the big giant hedge apples.
Yeah, hedge apples.
You guys, so the cow pasture, remember like where the swing set was and the sandbox, and that cow pasture went straight down?
Yep.
Remember in the wintertime, we'd drag a hose out there and let it run for hours?
Yeah.
And we just have this giant, it'd be like the biggest slip inside. So then we'd slide down, then we'd try to walk up. And then sure enough, one of our friends would be coming down at Mach 10 and just knock you off your feet and you slide right back down. God,
Well, and
so
I
much
remember
fun. And then
even
the
like
bowl.
going down the hill on the side towards that patch. They had like a lip like this
Yeah,
halfway
you
down,
do it.
and
Take
I mean
off.
you would take air going down that thing, but it was so frozen that if you landed wrong, dude, like you would just feel it all the way down because it wasn't a smooth hill because all the cow prints that were just frozen in it.
Well, and I mean, just the backyard we had kind of went down and then it went down again. So even sledding on that, and you could
Well,
really, if you iced it right, you could take off.
you had to watch out for the trees because like down the center of it was the trees where we nailed the catfish heads to, and on the
Yes.
right side was the woods, right? And
Yep.
so yeah, I remember that. But then at the bottom, I think there was a fence too. So if you went,
There
you were
was.
hitting that barbed wire fence.
Oh yeah.
And that same wood line on the right, you remember like we would literally play in the woods, and people probably think we're kidding, but no shoes, no socks, no t-shirt, just a pair of shorts in those woods for hours at a time doing things, right? I don't ever remember getting poison ivy as a kid.
No, I got poison ivy all the time. I'm allergic to it. Like, but I didn't
I don't
care.
remember getting it. As an adult, though, I get it if I look at it. But as a little kid, I was like, I think we were impervious to everything except for Tristan breaking arms.
Yeah, I don't remember getting a lot either. Now I'm thinking about that. I'm trying to think. And I wonder if we just got immune to it.
Yeah, I would get
I
mine
know,
if
but
I ever
but
got it. It would just be on my wrists, like
but now it's
just on the wrists.
as an adult though, I got it in my 20s when I was in the army, and I got it as a cop in like 2015. I remember but I was like, I never got it as a kid, and I don't understand how, because as a cop and as in the army, like everything, my whole body's covered, and I still got it. And I don't know, as kids, I think we must have been fed some sort of super formula that wore off over time or something. I don't know.
It's probably that powdered Gatorade.
You're probably all that experimental stuff. Yeah, definitely. But
Well,
going
and to
back to the
think that
catfish,
oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you remember those big old catfish? We'd go to Milan with Dad
Oh
at
Oh, and
yeah,
the
like the Rock River or
dam.
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
we go
and we
wading.
would
Yeah.
go catch. And we always had to be tied off the dad. Remember that he'd tie a rope to us and tie
Well,
a rope
because
to
they had
him.
those sinkholes. Like people died
Think,
Yeah.
on that
yeah,
river.
yeah. But also, I was thinking like if we started floating away because we didn't weigh next to nothing. A good current would just be like, oh, hey, Dad, give me a tug. Whatever.
Right.
But we'd catch those catfish that probably weighed damn near as much as we did at the time.
Oh yeah.
For whatever
Well,
reason, we'd
and
take.
and we kept that one alive in the bathtub in the unfinished basement for a little bit.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Well, because there's those pictures with Dad with the catfish that are like as tall as you guys were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
You remember the bunnies that we caught down?
Yeah.
Where were we? We were down Aquaca, maybe, because Dad used to play down there at Mr. Stiffy's or whatever.
Yeah, Mr.
Oh,
Stiffy.
yeah.
You remember that? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's where we won those rabbits that one year, and we came back with these we each had a pet rabbit,
Yeah.
and
All
we
three of
kept
us
them in the
won.
basement.
Well, I think you guys won the rabbits and I couldn't win one. So I think Trent, who was the long hair
Trent
lead
Acre.
singer. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he went and bought me one or tried to win me one or something because I was really sad that you two got one and I didn't.
Yeah, I
And they were
remember.
the softest bunnies.
They
But do you
were.
remember that we went away with Dad's band one weekend and we came back and they had frozen to death? Do you remember this?
No, no.
We
What
left
happened
them in
was,
the basement.
well, no. What happened was, we got wild rabbits. We caught wild rabbits too, and we put them in
Oh,
with the pet rabbits.
what happened?
And we think the pet rabbits killed, or the wild rabbits killed the pet rabbits.
I remember one of the pet rabbits being a frozen block.
Mine was frozen. Thumper definitely didn't make it out because he was frozen solid.
Yeah,
We had a lot
because
of pets that died.
we left him in the unfinished basement, and it was too cold.
Yeah, I do
Speaking of frozen animals, Tristan, do you remember the gift that Pongo gave you one winter?
I do. Well, he gave me a lot of frozen squirrels and various things in my because Pongo was a dog that had to sleep in the bed. He had to sleep in the bed with covers and a blanket. Like he was just that dog. But he would always leave me some prizes, but he would always cover them up so nobody ever saw them until you undid the covers and you're like, well, there's a dead animal in the bed. But best dog ever though, honestly.
Well, and that dog, I mean, it could run like 30, 40 miles an hour. That
I
thing
love
was
that dog.
crazy.
I loved all
That
our
dog.
Bandit and Elvis and all those. I
Oh
loved.
yeah. What was the first one? The Beagle.
Oh, Gizmo.
Gizmo.
Yeah,
Gizmo.
because we had
Gizmo
Gizmo
ran
first,
away.
and then
At least they said that.
Bandit and Elvis, and then we
And
got Pongo.
We had Miss
Yep.
Feisty. That was one of our
Dude,
cats.
she was
Oh,
insane. She would
remember when
kill
had
raccoons.
that? Remember that big gash she had in her neck? She came home that
Yeah,
one
because
time,
she
and
got
we
in a
know
fight
she
with a
got.
raccoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it healed up, and she just out doing her thing.
Yeah.
Like it was like
I'm
a
sure
bobcat for a pet.
knowing her, she's probably still out doing her thing. And we just,
Oh yeah,
just smacking people
yeah.
around.
25 years later, or over that, I guess now. But yeah, I remember that. It's a good time. All good times, man. We had some good times. That's the thing.
The
We had
more
some
we
good
talk, the more I'm like, dang, we were hick.
Well, yeah.
I remember that our parents would let us dress however the hell we wanted to. And I vaguely remember like it was either kindergarten or first grade picture. And I think I have it at the house, or at least mom had shown it to me at some point. And I look and I'm like, who dressed? Like, I didn't match at all. I had a mullet.
Oh, the
And
mullets.
The
it
mullets were
was
good.
just horrendous. But also it was the 90s. Weird Style was in, windbreakers were in, we all remember we had matching windbreaker outfits.
Oh yeah.
Dude, those were in
and
though.
mom
It was 90s.
Matching windbreakers with mullets.
we thought we were cool. Oh, bolo ties.
And yes, and then we went through the cowboy phase where we all had cowboy boots, Levi's, checkered shirts, and bolos with our cowboy hats. We were very bougie for cowboys.
Hey man, we were going to see that country western band all the time. We were just fitting right in. That's what it was.
I still got a pair of cowboy boots.
Actually, I found my pair in the garage. They were in a box that mom gave me from her house. And they may have been your old ones, but
I don't think your tight pants are gonna fit over those. You might have to wear those outside your pants. That's kind of an in thing too.
You always bring up the skinny jeans. I think you're just jealous that you can't wear
one,
them.
I
although you have the Tapscott butt though, so
no, I don't.
do.
I don't have a Tapscott booty. I have a rather small booty.
I have it for all of us.
You got it?
I got it. Don't you worry. Got it.
Yeah, no, I'm still pretty skinny, but I don't think I could pull off the. I'm not skinny like you. I have a little bit of a mutton top thing.
What's funny, you're the reason I wear them though, because you started wearing chick pants in high school, and then I was like, I want to be cool like my older brother. And
I thought you wore them first.
Nope, I stole yours, and then one thing led to another, and then they finally started making skinny jeans for men. They probably just
all did the women's thing though, because I did that too.
Yeah,
I had a punk rocker phase thing, and it didn't work out well for me.
It stuck with me for the longest time. I'm now like an elder emo, as they say.
Yeah, I don't dress like anybody else. That my style is a thing of its own that no one can figure out.
Yeah, you're that bow tie guy on TV.
I got bow ties.
But now it makes me wonder, from black and white movies, did they wear colorful stuff like you wear now? Because you're like dressed right out of the 40s like 90% of the time. So
true. It's true.
Except for the rare occasion when I see you in a pair of shorts.
It happens on occasion, but most of the time I'm doing something that needs some attire.
Needs
like
some pizzazz.
Yeah. Well, hey, this is probably a good place to end this particular one. But this was fun.
We have certainly been tapping into it.
I love the meandering of it. It's all good.
I hope I made it as awkward as you all anticipated.
Not at all.
It was great to have you join us, Jared.
You should.
You know what? It was fun to be introduced. The middle child has been introduced. The different one out of you two, out of the originals rather. But it was fun. Thank you guys so much. I had a great time. I hope somebody listens to it besides ourselves.
Well, I think
because I'll listen to it to see how stupid I sounded.
I think you should join us next time because I would like to dive into 90s music.
Oh,
in the next
yeah.
episode.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
We talked about this at work the other day, and let me tell you what, 98 Degrees is still good music. I'm just saying, like the boy bands, I'm down with it, guys. I'm sorry. NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, All for One, Boys to Men.
Jamiroquai.
They still got a place.
Jamiroquai, yes.
Jamiroquai. Wow.
And this
wow.
This is what we're going to tap into next week
I like it.
is 90s music. So
I like
buckle
Ready to
up.
talk about cassette tapes,
It's gonna be good. Cassette tapes, CDs,
recording stuff off the radio.
yeah,
Yeah,
all
I mean,
all the things.
Absolutely.
It is coming next episode of Tapping Into It.
I like it. All right. Well, hey, thank you all for listening. And dudes, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. And thank you all for tapping into it. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. All right, cool.